Tractate Sanhedrin, page 42. We'll start with page 41b, 14 lines from the bottom of the page. Today we're going to cover broader subjects. One of the core subjects is Kiddush Levana, the sanctification of the new month. As I assume you're aware that once a month we go out, look at the Levana, the moon, and sanctify it. Obviously there are many different halachot, many different points involved with doing it and doing it properly, the time of the month, the limitations, the proper blessings, the people who are capable to do it. For example, a famous question, how a blind person can do it, is women and men are equal when it's come to sanctification of the new month, and more. That's part of our discussion. But the first part is continuation of the subject of yesterday, which is the issue of discrepancies when it's come to a testimony, such as if one witness claimed that he saw the moon by the second day of the month, another one said that he saw it the third day of the month. So the Mishnah said we can accept the testimony, and the reason for that is because the whole idea of one day, someone did not get it properly the previous month, because as we learn, the month in those days can be sometimes 30 days, sometimes 29 days. And as we said, we're going to cover many other subjects as well. So let's start. 41b, 14 lines from the bottom of the page. אחד מהעדים אומר, as we said, the Mishnah said that one witness hold that it was in the second, the other one the third day. Ad kama. The question is, how far, until how many days in the month does the rabbinic court assume that one witness does not know the exact day when is the month begin? אמר רבי אחא בר חנינא אמר רבי אסי אמר רבי יוחנן עד רובו של חודש, until the majority of the days of the month. So if it was from the 20 days of the month and the other one said the 21st of the month, so that's basically make it a void. And that's the way the Rambam tells us in Hilchot Eidut, chapter 2, if the statement of the witnesses are not congruent with regard to the date of the month, and the difference is of one day, if they testified with regard to days in the second half of the month, their testimony is void. As after the middle of the month, everyone knows when the month began. אמר רבא אפנן נמי תנינא, אחד אומר בשלושה ואחד אומר בחמישה, עדותן בטלה. Why? Because you have a difference between the two of 2 days. One person said it was the third, one said it the fifth of the month. ועמי, why? נעימה שזה יודע בשני עיבורים וזה אינו יודע בשני עיבורים. You may say that one witness are familiar with the day that they had in the previous month and the other one no. אלא לאו משום דברי רובה ידע. It's not void because the majority of the months passed. The witness know what day it is, so that a mistake of 2 days cannot occur. So they said, לא, לעולם אם הלך ברובה נמי לא ידע ובשיפורה ידע. So you can say that what happened here, one witness may not know the day even once the majority of the months has passed. And the reason is because they said, בחד בשיפורה ידע. It knows about the shofar, which the court will blow for the new month. We are in the month of Elul, it's very proper. So, בחד שיפורה אמר דתאי, בתרי שיפורה לא אמר דתאי. So one time when you heard the blow of the shofar, so it could be said that the mistake that he was not aware of it. But if it was two, which means that it happens 2 times. So 2 blessed of shofar, it cannot be a mistake. So as you see, the other way around, when you're thinking about the case of the Mishnah, so as long as the witnesses are testifying about 2 consecutive days within 1 single month, so the mistake of one of them persists throughout the months. ואמר רב חנא בר חנינא אמר רב אסי או רבי אסי אמר רבי יוחנן עד כמה מברכים על החודש, until what time in the months we can have the birkat halevana, the blessing of the new month. He said עד שתתמלא פגימתה, until the flow of the moon is filled, when it no longer appears deficient. So it's important for those not familiar, Birkat HaLevana, it's once a month. We go out the early part of the month and we basically thanking Almighty for all the blessing He gave us, especially the newer of the months. Baruch Ata Hashem Mechadesh Chodashim, bless Almighty of God, who we're going to learn it in the next daf, knew the month. So we have to say it as long the Bach and Rashi said Bechidusha, when you see it at the very beginning stage of the new month. So how far you go with that, how many days is that? So Vechama Amar Rabbi Yaakov בר אידי אמר רב יהודה עד 7 נהרדאי אמרי עד 16. So here is the 2 views. One said up to the 7th day, and the 7th day is important to know. You see it in the Mefarshim. They say that when you use the term 7 days, 7th of the month, meaning it's not 7 days from the first day, but the counting of the first day is from the Molad HaLevana, which we're going to learn soon what exactly the proper time. But the 2 views is the first one, Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi Amar Rav Yehuda, you hold up to the 7th day from the Molad, and according to the sages of Nahardea, is up to the 16 days of the month. So here is the Beit Yosef. The Beit Yosef, you see it in Tafkaf Vav, 426. He brings from Harid Giktilia, Baal Sha'arei Ora. So he said that according to the Kabbalah, we should not make the bracha of Chidush HaLevana until we have 7 days pass by. That's the way the code said. But you see the Bach and others ask a question, because the Gemara hold that according to this Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, you do only up to 7 days and not more. Let's read first the translation of the text in the code, and then we go to the Tshuvat Rama Mipano. So the code said one may recite the blessing on the renewal of the month of the moon until the 16 days following the new moon. This calculation is from the astronomical new moon, not from the first day of the month, as we said earlier. After this time period, it is no longer fitting to say the blessing that includes the formulation who renews the month. That's basically follow the sages of Nehardea. That's the Kesef Mishnah of the Rambam. Rambam it's Ilchot Brachot chapter 10. The Shiarei Knesset HaGdolah and many others note that if it was not possible for one to make the blessing until this point, he can do so until the end of the 16th day. The early commentaries disagree with regard to the early time one may recite the blessing. Some hold that's the Sefer Hakana and others, that one may recite the blessings from the first day after the new moon. That you see a Smag in the Marshal, Rambam. Some even hold that this is the preferred way to perform the mitzvah. You see by the Talmud Rabbi Yona and the Bach, they hold that one may recite the blessing only after the third day. It's also in the Taz. Now, it is proper to wait 7 days from the new moon before reciting blessing, and so one should act according to the way the community does. But you see the Ramah who said that the view of the sages of Nahada, the whole idea of 16, and Rav Yehuda do not disagree. Rather, the sages of Nahada were discussing the latest permitted time that one may recite the blessing, and Rav Yehuda was discussing the earliest time. Some hold that if Saturday night falls after the third day, before the 7th day after the new moon, the blessing should be recited then. That's the Magen Avraham and the Levush. So basically, following that view, you see, number one, how important it is to follow the Luchot. Here we have either Luach Ezrat Torah or Luach Davar Be'ito in Israel, and you also bring around the globe Rav Mordechai Genot with a great job with Luach Davar Be'ito, Luach Yom Yom. Those Luchot, those calendars give you the time frame, but it's basically goes up to the 7 or the 7 for one view, and the other one the latest up to the 16th. So again, this is a big question if now they disagree or they just basically hold what is the latest time. But that's the Rema Mipano in Siman Ayin Chet explained that it's really not a disputation between Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi and Nahardei. It's not up to when we can make this bracha, but the question is what exactly Rabbi Yochanan meant. If it's the beginning of the Zman of the time or the end. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi hold that it's beginning of the time, which is Ad Shiva, up to 7, which is the Tchilat Zman, the beginning. It's up to Shiv'a Va'elach, which means you cannot do earlier than the 7th day if you follow that view. Now, Harder said that it's the end of the time, which is up to the Tetzain, which is the 16th. So in that sense, according to Rema Mipano, the 7 days is just the earlier period. But Chatam Sofer, in Orach Chaim Kuf Bet, 102, he brings that that's the idea of Mitchilat Leil Shvi'i, from the beginning of the eve of the 7 days. He brings the whole Ma'alach, and by the end, he concluded the Chatam Sofer that it should be from the end of the 7th day. But as we said, the best way is to look at the calendar for each month, or if you're not sure, make the phone call or ask the local rabbi to make sure you do it in the proper time frame. One of my dearest friends, Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer Shlita, we are friends for more than 30 years. He wrote the big Haskama and approbation for my first book on Rashi. He wrote in his book called Shlom Yaakov. He is author of many books. He is the Rosh Hashiva of Kaf HaChaim and grandson of the Kaf HaChaim. So he wrote in his book called Shlom Yaakov that he said that that's the minhag of Maran, and he said in this type of machloket between Mekubalim and Poskim, which usually we go by the Poskim, but this one we go by the Mekubalim. And he brings the Rambam in Ilchot Brachot, chapter 17, and he said, הרואה לבנה בחידושה מברך, ואם לא בירך עליה בליל הראשון, מברך עליה עד 16 יום בחודש, עד שתתמלא פגימתה. So you see here from the Rambam, as we mentioned earlier, that you hold the same as Nahardei, up to the 16th. That's the way the Rabbeinu Asher hold, the Rosh, in his Psakim in Sanhedrin, that he holds because he's the Rabbim. The Rif brought that, and also you see it in the Shlomi Yaakov, he said, Rif, that Yachid Berabim Alacha Kerabim, when you have one view versus majority, you go with the majority. So he brought the Rif, the Chida, Birkei Yosef, Shut Chaim Sha'al, and Stechemet, and others. In short, that's the idea of going for the 16. But Maran in Shulchan Aruch, in Orach Chaim Tav Kaf Vav, and that's the key point, said, En Mevarchim Alea, which is, you don't do the Birkat Alvana, Ad Sheya'avru Shiv'a Yamim Alea, which means you have to wait, that's according to Maran, until the 7 days, and he basically followed the Bet Yosef, as we mentioned earlier, by the Mekubal Rabbi Yosef Gik Tilia. He also mentioned Rabbi Yaakov Rokeach, which is one of the Geonim, in his book called Shulchan Lechem Apanim, in Taf Kavav, and he said that he bring the Babli, the Yerushalmi, Brachot Perek Tet, and many others, that he said that from the third and onward, you can do Birkat Alvana. But as we said, that we go by the Mekubalim. So, usually we go by the Shulchan Aruch, but in this one, we go by the Mekubalim. So as you see here, there is a lot of write-up about when exactly, but in this case, we basically, according to most of those sources, my late father had a big ma'amar over that, in one of those contrasting. As you know, my late father wrote several books, but one of them, it's a big ma'amar over this, and the bottom line is, usually we don't go by the Kabbalah, but in this one we go by the Kabbalah. So in short, it's advisable and preferable to go by Shulchan Aruch, which is from the 7 and onward to the 16, but in some cases you can even go earlier, but again, yeah, that's not lechatchila. And you're welcome to go and read, I think one of the best books on this, it's a book called Shulchan Lechem Apanim, that bring all the views. You see also a beautiful write-up in a book called Yad Aharon, or the book called Shelot V'Tshuvot Olat Shmuel. Page 42, Vet Ravaihu, and both Rabbi Yehuda and Ahardei, Ki Rabbi Yochanan Svira Lehu. So they hold the same as Rabbi Yochanan, did not make the bracha of the Levana, of the new moon, until that it's full, which means the floor of the moon is filled. Ha lemehevei ki etera, ha lemehevei ki nafya, which is one is like striking like a bow, and the other one, the sages of Nehara, so that you have the blessing until the 16th day of the month, which is that the moon will be like a sieve, like a full cycle. Amar le Rav Acha midifti le Ravina, velivrei chato ve'ameitiv. So he asked why we don't say this bracha of God is good and goodness to us, because that's the Gemara in Brachot 54 said that for some new good news one should say. Now the Rashi and Marshal and others said the whole idea of making it is a new one, that's the core reason. So, but Ravina responded and said, Amar le atu ki chasar mi mevarchin ad dayan ha'emet. When you go all the way around and it's missing meaning you do not have the entire, you have the reduction of the size of the levana, of the moon. So the Jews said Dayana Emet. Dayana Emet is basically for Shmu'a Ra'ah, for bad news. You said, blessed are you God, who is a true judge. You don't make that blessing when you see a reduction of the size of the moon. So therefore he said, Delvarech Hatov Ha'metiv. So why only one way you want and not the other way around? So they said, Velevarchinu litravayu. Why you don't do both, which is the blessing of the true judge when the moon is waning, and the blessing of who is good and who does good when the moon is waxing? So Ravina answered him and said, Keivan dehainu orchei lo mevarchinan. Since this is its nature, we do not bless the moon. The waxing and the waning of the moon is not an unexpected occurrence that requires this type of blessings. Since we mentioned several points of Acha Bar Chanina, so we mentioned more. Said, Ve'amar Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol HaMevarech al HaChodesh Bizmano, Ki'ilu Mekabel Pnei Shechina, the one who make the blessing of the new month on time. It's in a way, again, is this human anthropomorphic language, is like expression that he greet the face of the divine presence. So alluding to this, it's the idea that even the divine providence is hidden from our eyes, but since you look at all the creation, as Tehillim, as Psalm 104 tells us, and you realize the beauty of nature, so it's like receiving the divine providence or the understanding of divine providence. That's the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah explains. So the Levush even add to that in Orach Chaim 4:26, and he said that even all the different nature occurrences that we dedicate the special blessings, we say this bracha, but the Maharsha elaborates, and he said that since we are in exile and we are looking forward for the Beit HaMikdash, the new building of a temple, so when we see the divine providence that renewed every month, it's a fresh reminder that God is watching over us and going to renew us as promised. So he said, K'tiv Acha HaChodesh Hazeh, the Torah said in the book of Shmot, in Exodus chapter 12, this is the month. Uchtiv Atam, they said when the divine providence revealed himself, when it was the splitting of the sea, they used the word Ze Eli Ve'anvehu. This is the Almighty, and now glorified him. So the term this is employed in both psukim, in both verses. So you derive from verbal analogy, from this juxtaposition of using the word Ze, that when you see the new moon is like receiving the face in our language of the divine providence. It's a common question in Halacha, how you treated a situation that people cannot see it directly. It's a matter of fact that I know in the past some people get a room in a high-rise building, high-rise hotel, when it's all dark out there and they want to see the Levana and make the blessings. So the question is, can you do that while you have, you don't see it directly, you just use the windows, and toward the window you see the Levana. So many poskim said it's a problem. The Maharil mentioned the Chash Tum'ah Me'agag, that it's the concerning of the rending of ritual impurity, but you see in others not even make the blessing of the new month, even if they're under the tree, only tachat kippat hashamayim, only directly under the direct contact of the sun. Eliyahu Rabbah brings the whole idea of mita meshuna, that anyone who make the blessings of the new month is kind of a spiritual protection against, God forbid, sudden death. One of the stories I heard long ago from one of the survivors of World War II, he said that he was very strict, he was very makpid to make the blessing of the new month every single month. And one time when he was in a concentration camp, one of the Nazis realized, and most probably was smart enough to understand, he saw him walking out of the tent and make the blessing of the moon. So he came back to place respect, and he said, "Who is the one who make the blessing of the moon?" And no one said, and he left them alone. And he said it was a great miracle that was a summertime, because if it was a winter time, he said he can touch his body, and he realized that it's much colder. But anyway, there are a lot of stories, miracles that happen to people who really, this mitzvah is just example. Tana dever Rabbi Ishmael, ilmalei zachu, or some said lo, depending on the Haggadah, but anyway, zachu Yisrael, אלא להקביל פני אביהן שבשמיים כל חודש וחודש דיים. So he held that if the Jewish people merited to greet the face of the Almighty in heaven only one time each and every month, it sufficed for them, since the blessing of the moon, there is an aspect of greeting in a way the divine presence. Amar Abaye said, Hilkach, so since you tell me that a person kind of greeted the divine providence, so Nimrin hu me'umad, that we should make this blessing while we're standing. That's part of respecting the Shekhinah. Mereimar umar zutrei mechatfei umevarchei. It was elderly rabbis by the name of Mereimar and Mar Zutra that they have a very hard time to stand, but at this time, Yadoma explained, they asked the assistant to help them stand up because of the divine providence and the act of respect, even with their advanced age and hardship. So they asked them to help them out, and they stood up while they make the blessings. So the rabbi of Chebin, the Gaon of Chebin, elaborated on that, and he said, if Birkat HaLevana, the blessing of the new moon, is considering Birkat HaNehenim as the bracha that we say for anything that we derive joy, because a person Nehena Balayla Me'or HaLevana, a person enjoy at night the light of the moon, or Birkat HaMitzvot, just blessing for the mitzvah. The difference, the nafkamina, is if you need to do it while you're standing or not, because Birkat HaMitzvot, we have the tradition to do it while we're standing. So he said, since the Gemara mentioned here that even once a month it's enough, so that it's Birkat HaMitzvot, because if it was Birkat HaNehenim, you can have to do it every evening, like Yotzer Or. So therefore, that's the Me'umad. You see more on that in the responsa called Shelot Utshuvot Divrei Yatziv Chelek Aleph. Obviously, there is a book called Gemarrah V'Chayei, which we don't have time to go there. We have a long explanation of this idea. אמר לרב אחא לרב אשי במערבה מברכי ברוך מחדש חודשים. He said in Eretz Israel, in the west, they recite the blessing, blessed is he who renews the month. So it means with the full Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. That's the way the Meiri explained. The Meiri elaborates and he says the whole idea of a moon is a reflection of the sun, meaning the sun shining the ray of light, and then you see the reflection toward the moon. That's the way the Margaliyot Hayam, Maharsha, and Meiri explained. Amar lei hay nashei didan namei mevarchei. Here we enter another important subject, which is women obligations, or women being part of saying the bracha. And in short, what's most of the Mefarshim, Rabbeinu Asher and others, said that it's basically optional. They said that the Shla Kadosh said that they should not do it. Why? Because he said it's mitzvah taseh shehazman grama, that is dependent upon the time. But anyway, so they said, Ela kid Rav Yehuda damar Rav Yehuda, Baruch tzerua asher b'ma'amaro barash chakim u'v'ruach piv kol tzva'am, chok u'zman natan lahem shelo yeshanu et tafkidam. That's the Abu Draham said, that's the standard language. You see it in our Sidurim. Sasim v'smechim, they are happy, la'asot retzon konam, to fulfill the wishes of the Creator. פועלי אמת שפעולתן אמת, וללבנה אמר שתתחדש עטרת תפארת לעמוסי בטן, שהם עתידין להתחדש כמותה. So he said to the moon that it's going to be renewed like it, לפאר ליוצרם על שם כבוד מלכותו, and to praise the Creator for the name of His glorious kingdom. Baruch Atah Hashem Mechadesh Chodashim. Blessed are you, Lord, who renew the month. So there is many midrashim that people pray they shouldn't have toothaches and more, all the personal needs. There's a lot of midrashim about prayers, but in the code in Orach Chaim 426, I'll just give you a vignette, a little point from the code. One should recite the blessing of the new moon while standing, as reciting the blessing is tantamount to greeting the divine presence. That's basically the Rabbi Yochanan and Abaye. And women do not recite the blessing of the moon. That's the Magen Avraham in Orach Chaim 426. And the text of the blessing of the new moon is follow the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. The custom today is to recite several verses in addition to the blessings. That's the Rambam in Ilchot Brachot, chapter 10. But the whole idea is like you greeting the face of the Almighty. So since we brought several statements of Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina on behalf of Rabbi Yochanan, so we add more. That's from the book of Proverbs, chapter 24. They said, Ki betachbulot ta'aseh lecha milchama, which is, for by a wise advice you should make you war. Amar Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, B'mi ata motze milchamta shel Torah, which means, how do you get to the deep logical mindset of disputation, of understanding of the Torah, and go to the essence, the core understanding? Someone who has the capability to the abundance, which is vast knowledge of the oral teaching of the Mishnah, which is you have to have the learning of primary sources before engaging in dispute in the Torah. So even you are deep, you need to see the depth of the Torah. So I would like to add to that a famous statement of Rabbeinu Nachman of Breslov, that he said that we're getting close to Rosh Hashanah, and he says in conjunction to our subject of the new month, and he says that the whole idea of having Rosh Hashanah in Rosh Chodesh, beginning of the month of Tishrei, he said that it's like the Almighty said, Haviu alai kapara, which is again an anthropomorphic way, kivyachol, it's kapara for Hashem, but it's the idea I explained, that's the meaning of po'el emet shepe'ulato emet. There's a book called Ginzei Yosef, he brought from the book called Pri Hasadeh, that a lot of sorrows that the world are facing, nature and the world in general, it's because the moon complained of being unappreciative or not have the proper respect as the sun had. So when you have a Shana Me'uberet, he said, when you have a leap year, we basically have some equalizations between the sun and the moon. So he said that's the meaning of Lechaparat Pasha, what we said in the leap year, a special additional lines in the Musaf, which is the idea that the moon in a way stopped complaining about the reduction of size comparing to sun. But anyway, Karei Rav Yosef Anafshei Varav Tvuot Bechoach Shor. He brought from Proverbs chapter 14, one who with the strength can bring a large yield. Rav Yosef was known to be particularly well versed in this Tanaic statements, and Tosfot explained that the ox, use the term ox, its implication to a person by the name of Yosef, because the way that the Moshe Rabbeinu, before he passed away, he called the tribe, the descendants of Joseph, of Yosef, in the book of Dvarim, chapter 33, he called him Bechor Shor, the first son of an ox. So it's kind of symbolic to Yosef. Now we go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said if you have a situation of disputation between the witnesses, one said, Ed echad omer bishtei sha'ot. One of the witnesses says that the event occurred at 2 hours, which is the second hour of the day from sunrise, and one witness said that the event occurred on the 3 hours. So they said that the testimony stands. Amar Rav Shimi bar Ashi, lo shanu ela sha'ot. That apply only the amount of hours. אבל אחד אומר קודם הנצח אמר, ואחד אומר לאחר הנצח אמר, עדותן בטלה. Here, if one witness said it was before the sunrise, and the other one said it's after the sunrise, this testimony is void, because it may be the smaller discrepancy in terms of time. The difference between before and after sunrise cannot be ascribed to a mistake, an error. So the Gemara said, Pshita, why Rav Shimi bar Ashi needs to say it, Ela echad omer kodem hanetz, ve'echad omer betoch hanetz. So he said that the difference is, it's one said before the sunrise, and said during the sunrise, so the testimony is void. So they said, Haname Pshita, it's also obvious. So because you describe the situation of the sun, so you cannot depend upon mistakes. So they said, Ma'u de Teima, ha begiluya kai vezaharurei be'alma udechaza. We said that maybe it was standing in an exposed place, and saw a mere shine, and thought he saw the sunrise. So therefore, kamashmalan. So it's Rav Shimi bar Ashi teaches us that the rabbinic court does not assume this occurred and deems the testimony incongruent. Then the Mishnah said, ve'achar kach, after you testify the first witness, you bring machnisim, you bring the second one. So they said, Oto hayom vetu lo, that day and no more. Ve'atanya im yesh mamash bidvarav, lo yored misham leolam. So if they said that if the substance is in his, in the students, in the disciples' point of view, he will never descend from there. So his statement to demonstrate that he is capable of deliberating with the other judges. So here the Rambam and other Rishonim explain that that applies to only that specific court case. Doesn't mean that it's forever. That's the way the Meiri explained. But anyway, the whole purpose it's in order to encourage other students to do it. And so Amar Abaye Targuma im ein mamash bidvarav. He said that interpret this Mishnah that it does not have a substance. So anyway, matz'u lo zchut. So if they find some merit fit to acquit the defender during deliberation, or as all the majority of them agree to acquit him, they excuse him. So the Mishnah teaches that the judge will not drink wine all day. So they said, Yain mai ta'ama lo. What's the reason that the judge is not allowed to drink wine? Amar Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, Amar Kra, ul roznim ei sheichar. They said in the Proverbs, chapter 31, with the roznim, the princes, where is strong drink? So he explains that the derivative is haoskin berazo shel olam. If you're dealing with a capital cases, al yishtakru, do not become intoxicated. Obviously, you're dealing with a serious case with people, you have to be careful. So then we said, matz'u lo zchut, some danim elu keneged elu achirei. So they said, lo ra'u mai, who is the one who's not seen, meaning not see the validity of the portion of those who acquit him. Amar Rabbi Acha potrin oto. Mai, Amar Rabbi Acha potrin oto, v'chen Amar Rabbi Yochanan potrim oto. So both said that they release him, they don't found him liable. Amar le Rav Papa le'Abaye v'nifterei me'ikara. So he said that they should release him from the outset. Amar lei, Abaye said to Rav Papa, Hache Amar Rabbi Yochanan, you have to wait for the judges to have deliberation of a court case, meaning that one disputed the others and have all these negotiations back and forth. Kedei shelo yitz'u mibeit din me'ur ba'avin. It's very important they should not walk out of the court confounded, which means without reaching some definite conclusion, as it will bring a bad reputation for the court. That's the way Rach and the Ran, Rabbeinu David and others explained. Ika de Amrei, there is another version to that. Amar le Rav Papa le'Abaye ve'lama li yosifu. Why we add more judges on the basic court of 23 if you don't have this type of majority to make the person liable? Lifterei mi beidina kama. So basically they release him from the first court. When the first court did not find him liable, they should release him. Why they need to add more judges? Amar le Rabbi Yosei kai kvatach. Detane Rabbi Yosei omer, כשם שאין מוסיפים על בית דין של 71, כך אין מוסיפים על בית דין של 23. He said, look, we have a structure of court. We have the highest Supreme Court, which is the 71 judges. We have the 23, and we have the 3. So the same way as we don't add judges for the Supreme Court, which is the maximum of 71, the same way we do not add more judges to the 23 of the court. So basically Rabbi Yossi disputed the Tana of our Mishnah, who hold that as far as the adding more judges when it's no hachra'ah, when it's no final conclusion, but you wait for more deliverance, which is more negotiation back and forth between the judges until they come with the clear majority. Tanu Rabbanan, Ulan Nabaita Omer Bedine Mamonot Nizdaken Adin. ואין אומרים בדיני נפשות נזדקן הדין. Here we talk about the age of a court case. As you know, unfortunately nowadays you see it a lot, that because the court is overwhelmed with cases, some cases have a long term of decisions, so it's a kind of age. So they said when it's come to mandatory law, the judgment can be very difficult and require security. But in the cases of capital law, one does not say the judgment has grown aged. Mine is daken adin, ilmein makash dina. If you tell me that they're taking an extended amount of time but require additional deliberations, ipcha mibayale. It should be the other way around. It's more critical to extend deliberations in cases of capital law than in cases of monetary law. It's just the reverse way. And said that the cases of monetary law does not say that the judgment has grown age, but in the case of capital law you said it. Ravashi amar l'olam la tipuch, umay nizdaken hadin, chacham dina, the judgment has grown wise, like an elder who has acquired wisdom. So it means to say that the deliberation have been exhausted and it's a time to vote on a verdict. We always have to be careful with the concept of inui hadin, that people suffer meanwhile when you not reach the verdict. Meitivei, gadol shebayadinim omer nizdaken adin. If the head of the greatest among the judges said the judgment has grown age, so what's the objection? If you tell me that it's the wise, the grown wise, which will be the brighter that state, haynu de amar gadol, ela yamart kash dina. But if you say that means that the judgment has aged, lasaged de la amar gadol, it's not enough for the greatest among the judges in particular to say so. So they say kasufei hu de machasif nafshei, is basically him embarrassing himself. In general, the Yadrama explained that the matter of age, it's a matter of wisdom. So that's the Gemara in Kiddushin 32. So it basically declared that his court cannot reach a verdict. So it's kind of embarrassing. So they said, Ein eno domei mitbayesh be'atzmo le'mitbayesh me'acherim. You cannot compare one being shamed by oneself to one who's shamed by others. So what you see here, it's preferable that the greatest of the judges states this conclusion rather than having one of the more junior judge stated. So that's the way Rashi explained it. It's a very difference between others declare something versus the person said it by himself. Ikad amrei, another option. I amart bishlama kashtina haynu deono dome mitbayesh be'atzmo mitbayesh me'acherim. אלא אמרת חכם דינה הגדול השבוכי משבח נפשי והכתיב יעלה לך זר ולא פיך. They said in the book of Proverbs chapter 27 that it's better for another man praise you but you not your own mouth, because when you praising yourself it's almost like a narcissist, that you're speaking about yourself, how great you are. And they said shane milta the veit dina, a matter of court is different, as the administration is incumbent upon the greatest judge. The Gadol Ramya Kidek Udnan, that's what we learned earlier in the Mishnah, page 29. Gamru et hadavar, when they finish deliberation, the matter, hayu machnisin otam, they will bring in the litigant. גדול שבדיינים אומר, איש פלוני אתה זכאי. The greatest of the judges will say, so and so you may exempt from the pain. Or, איש פלוני אתה חייב. Or, so and so you're liable to pay. So that's basically the head of the court, which is the Tur in Choshen Mishpat 19 explains that the whole idea is that people the litigant will not be aware who among the judges make which decision, which one is for, which one against. This is also the Rambam. In Ilchot Eidut, chapter 9, he said, in case of capital law, where there is a divided court, and they had judges until they were 71, and they still could not arrive at the verdict, the greatest of the judges announced the judgment has grown age, and they acquit the accused. But again, it's all, as the Kesef Mishneh explained, it's the whole idea based on what the Tur said in Choshen Mishpat 19, that people should not be aware who and what make and what decisions. Hadran alach hayu bodkin. We complete this beautiful chapter 5, named Hayu Bodkin. Page 42b, Baruch Hashem, we start a new parak, a new chapter, Nigmar Adin, parak Shishi, the 6th one. We learned in the previous parak all the structure, judicial structure, when it's come to the legal procedure relating to these capital laws. Now we're going to have a special discussion of the final execution and all the carry on the court imposed capital punishment. So before we go further for the final verdict, obviously the court must take every possible precaution to prevent any miscarriage of justice. You have always the consideration of distance possibility that perhaps some argument of the guilty party's favor will be raised even in the final moment of his life. So basically we have special attention to these precautionary measures. And the Mishnah starts Nigmar Hadin. When that's an unfortunate moment, the Meiri said that since we have to be very circumspect, very cautious before we make the final verdict, so here you have a situation that the fellow is guilty, is found guilty, and the condemned man has been sentenced to be stoned, and the Meforshim explains that it's a different variation, but they said that the burning is much severer than stoning. Not everyone agree with that, but that's for that procedure, so you go in a sense of stages. But anyway, Nigmar Adin motzi'in oto lesoklo. When this trial ended, so they taking out to be stoned. Beit Askila, the place that they put the fellow stoning, Haya chutz lebet din. So he was in a distance from the rabbinic court. Shene'emar hotze et hamekalel, because the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 24, take out him who is cursed to outside the camp. So here the Torah described a fellow that used his mouth improperly and cursed, and basically they punished him. Obviously the whole evidence is not of today's subject, but in general it was a sample of procedure at the ancient time. So we derive from that halachot. So we said, Echad omed al petach bet din vehasudarim beyado. The decorum, the procedure is, one may stand at the entrance of the rabbinic court with clothes in his hand, and another man sit on a horse at a distance from him. So the Rambam said that, and you see it also in Rabbeinu Yehonatan, that you can see it from a distance. That's the purpose. But they said, Rachok mimeno kedei sheyehe ro'ehu. So we have it in a distance, so we can see the other. The moment that you lift it up, those clothes, you can see if there is the rabbinic court come back to have some type of session, and if that happen, That's basically avoiding him from being executed. But it's only in the distance that one can see the other. אומר אחד יש ללמד עליו זכות. So here, if one of them all of a sudden said that, guess what, I have something to acquit that person. So if you acquit him, the Nimukei Yosef said that even one of the judges either said with the rabbinic court or come to the rabbinic court. There's a few variations, but he come and said that they have a reason to acquit him. Hala manif basidurim vasus ratz uma'amidan. So basically they lift up, they wave the stove, the cloth as a signal to the man on a horse, and the horse races off after the court agents who are leading the condemned man to his execution, and he stops them, and they wait until the court determines whether or not the argument has substance. ואפילו הוא אומר, יש לי להעמיד על עצמי זכות, even the person who's supposed to be executed all of a sudden have something to say about him being acquitted, I want to acquit myself, מחזירין אותו, they bring him back to a courthouse to hear what he have to say, אפילו 4 ו5 פעמים, even 4 or even 5 times, each time they can go back, and it's not 4 or 5, it's not what Yom said, it's not necessarily 4 or 5, it's just the idea that he can come back and express himself even several times. The Kosa Ishuot and Gemarrah V'chayei said that it's also a status of limitations, but the key idea is he can come back, ובלבד שיהיה ממש בדבריו, as long as you find some substance in his word that carries something. And the big question, Rashi brought the Gemara later on, says, how do you know in advance that there is a substance in his word? The Ran elaborated and said, even the other 3 mitot beidin, which is the sreifa, the burning, the hereg, the strangulation, the killing by sword, and chenek, the strangulation, it's within a distance from the rabbinic courts, in order, the same idea that we can see from a distance, and in that proximity we'll be able to have back this person to come back and express himself. The one said that it's not always like that, it's not necessarily, it's not required like that for the other 3 mitot beit din. So here is the Rambam in Sefer Shoftim Ilchot Sanhedrin chapter 12. He said, if one was sentenced to death by stoning, he was taken out to the place of stoning. One man will stand at the entrance to the court with cloth in his hand, and another man will sit on a horse at a distance from him. If an argument was found in favor of the condemned man, the man standing at the entrance to the courthouse will wave the cloth, and the man mounted on the house will take off to delay the execution until the matter was clarified. That's basically the way the Mishnah said. And the Rambam elaborates and said that the Beit HaSkila, the place of stoning in those days, was outside the court, located outside the court, so there's some distance from it. So that's the way the Rambam said it was located about 6 mil from the court. That was in the days, followed the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses. But that's the whole idea, to give a chance to a person in the sense of appealing. And that's what we said the other day, that brought the Gemara, that said, again, it's just the language of the exaggeration in the Talmud, that the rabbinic court that executed someone once in a 70 years, it's called like a murder court. So it gives you so many opportunity to find a way to let him just in a jail time instead of executed the person. So now the Gemara asks us a question. Ubeit haskila chutz levet din hava vetu lo the place of the stoning was just outside the rabbinic court and nothing more, it suffices that the place of execution is only a short distance from the court and no further. והתניא בית הסקילה יחוץ לשלוש מחנות. We learned in the Braita that the time that the Jewish people were in the desert, so you have the Machaneh Israel, the Israelites camp, that it was in three different camps. It was the place that the tabernacle and the courtyard, that's called Machaneh Shechina, the divine providence camp. Then it was the camp of Moses and Aaron and his sons and all the tribe of Levi. It's called Machaneh Leviah, the Levi's camp. And then you have the third one, it's called Machaneh Israel, the general camp of Israelite, that they have in the Talmudic language 3 parsaot by 3 parsaot. So, and in a way it's equivalent to later on in Eretz Israel. In Eretz Israel you have the sanctuary, it's called a Heichal, and then Ezrat Israel, that's what was up to the gate of Nicanor, that's called the Cave of Shechina, the divine providence. Then you have the second one, it's all the place of Harabai, the temple mountain, that is called equivalency to Machaneh Leviah, the camp of the Levites. And then you have the city of Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem, and inside the Chomot, inside those walls around the city, and the same applies to any city in Eretz Israel that have a wall around them from the time of Yoshua bin Nun. That's called Machaneh Israel. They carry a special sanctity. That's the Tosefta in Tractate Kelin, and in Bava Kama, and also you see it in the Babylonian Talmud in Zvachim Kuf Tet Zayin 116b. Anyway, so why the Mishnah is not obligated that this house of stoning has to be just outside of the place that the court executed? So the Gemara said in Kidike Amar, yes, it's already you saying, which is the place of stoning was outside the 3 camps, and it has to be outside of the city domain. The reason that the Mishnah stated in such a way that it's outside of the rabbinic court, it's in order for us to learn another thing, which is nafkamina de inafik beidina, that if the rabbinic court went out and convened outside the 3 camps, viyativ chutz leshalosh machanot. So since we explained that only a court of 23 judges can judge a capital punishment, so these 3 formulation of court or outside of the domain of the Holy Temple. One is the Supreme Court, Sanhedrin Gdola, that is 71 judges. It was a special location that's called Gazit Chamber, Lishkat HaGazit. The second one is the Sanhedrin Tana, the one we just discussed, that have a 23 rabbinic judges, and it was the entrance of the Temple Mountain. And the third one, it's the entrance of regular Ezrat Israel. So that's the formulation of the Batei Din. So they said, the inafik beidina v'yativ chutz l'shalosh machanot avdinan beit haskila chutz lebeit adin. So if they have it outside of the 3 camp, we make the place of the stoning set up in a certain distance from the rabbinic court, not immediately adjacent to it, so that the court should not appear to be court of murderer. Ki heched lo mitchazei bedin rotzchim. Iname ki heched teheve lehatzala. Also, that maybe have the opportunity to save, which is the during this time it takes for him to be taken from the court to the place of stoning, someone will devise a claim in his favor. So in the Radvaz, Rabbeinu David ben Zimra on the Rambam, in Sanhedrin chapter 12, he derives that it has to be 6 milin. How he gated? So he said that Machane Israel in the desert was 12 mil, and the Bet Din was in the middle, be'emtza Machane Shechina, in the middle of the divine providence camp, which means that it was a 6 milin outside of the camp. So what we see here, the Radvaz said that if the Bet Din convene outside of the city, so there has to be in some distance based on this discussions. So anyway, they said Menahanei Milei. From where do we learn this, that they carry outside of the camp? The Tanura Banan. The Torah speaks about a fellow that received execution of stoning. So the Torah said in Leviticus chapter 24, verse 14, take out him who was cursed to outside the camp. Chutz לשלוש מחנות, outside of the 3 camps. אתה אומר מחוץ לשלוש מחנות, או אלא מחוץ למחנה אחת. Maybe it's outside of מחנה לוויה, because the Rabbeinu Nisim explains that that's the place Moses said, and that therefore you have the stoning of in the location of מחנה ישראל. So נאמר כאן מחוץ למחנה, ונאמר בפרים הנשרפים מחוץ למחנה. מה להלן חוץ לשלוש מחנות, אף כאן חוץ לשלוש מחנות. We learn from this verbal analogy, they use both terms, quote unquote, outside the camp, which is both in Leviticus 4, in Leviticus 24. So we derive from that the same way as one location has to be outside the 3 camps. So the same way here, you have to do it outside of the 3 camp. So they said vehatam menalan, but over there when it's come to a bulls brought as the sin offering that are burned. So how do you know that it's the same idea? The Tanura Banan, this is the rabbinic derivative from the text in Leviticus chapter 4 verse 12. והוציא את כל הפר אל מחוץ למחנה. The Torah said that you should take the bull outside, even the whole bull carry outside of the camp. So meaning that he should take outside the 3 camps. חוץ לשלוש מחנות. אתה אומר חוץ לשלוש מחנות או אינה חוץ למחנה אחת. Maybe it's just outside of the azara, of the courtyard in the temple. So they said כשהוא אומר אל מחוץ למחנה בפר העדה, שאין תלמוד לומר שהרי כבר נאמר ושרף אותו כאשר שרף את הפר ראשון, ליתן לו מחנה שנייה. וכשהוא אומר מחוץ למחנה בדשן, שאין תלמוד לומר שהרי כבר נאמר על שפך הדשן יישרף, ליתן לו מחנה שלישית. So the Gemara said ולילף, have to run, okay, משחותי חוץ, מה לה חוץ למחנה אחת, אף כאן חוץ למחנה אחת, מסתברא מפרים הנשרפים אבל למילף, שכן נוצר מחוץ למחנה מכשיר ומכפר. So the Gemara asked, אדרבה, משחותי חוץ הבא למילף, שכן אדם חוטא בנשמה פיגול. So the Gemara said, מכשיר ממכשיר עדיף לי. מכשיר ממכשיר עדיף לי. Now, we should know that we have to run by this end, but hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to cover more ground on this subject.